Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Dean. How's it?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to my afternoon, very thundery and rainy storm.
Can you still hear me? There we
Yes.
go. Stormy, rainy.
Yes. So,
You know what? And how are you making out with that?
yeah, it's fine. I'm good. I'm all good.
Awesome. Guess what we have?
What?
Snow. It's
Oh
snow.
my God.
It started, and it doesn't snow here very well. It snows here more often now, but we've gone 70 years sometimes or 50 years without snow, and it
No,
snowed
that's
yesterday. And it's
unbelievable. That is
on the ground.
amazing.
Ho,
Wow.
ho, ho.
Oh, Merry Christmas. You got an early Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking forward to
you can show us the snow, right? Or not? Not really.
I might end up hanging up on you by accident.
Oh dear.
But it's white.
Is it actually like actively snowing at the moment?
No, it's but it was coming down pretty good yesterday, and I think at higher elevations they got about 4 inches.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so
well, welcome back to the show. The tourist bus with the difference, the cosmic trip, you know?
The cosmic trip. Yes, exactly. And so because it's very early here, I'm a little jacked up on coffee at the moment. I got about 3 hours of sleep.
Oh, so, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just try and contain myself.
You don't have to. We can just like have a run around, you know, play in the snow.
Yes, exactly. Play.
Do whatever.
That's all about. We'll just play.
Yes, exactly. So we were going to convene on this day because of the lunar eclipse, and then I sat and sort of focused on the lunar eclipse, and I realized, you know, it really wasn't that important. You know? It wasn't really that important. It was more important, like you say, about, you know, about what we're doing with our own consciousness. So to try and find meaning, you know, on the outside all the time. I know that was one of the topics that we were going to chat about today.
Yeah, it's kind of the way we've been conditioned, right? Is to look externally, look with the eyes, and it's all about, you know, we all program ourselves, which are just patterns. Programs are patterns, and that conditions us to have certain viewpoints and feel certain ways about things, and that's what happens when we came into this realm. We knew what we were in for, to forget our natural state and play.
Yeah, play in the inverted matrix. Fun.
Yeah.
Again. Let's like try and forget everything and just see if we can get any further this time round.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
but that isn't that part of the thing though? Is we get lost in play, and we can get so lost in play that everything's the illusion. We're caught up in the illusion. But if we can remember to come back to our natural state and go, okay, that was neat. I want to go do it again, and get lost in the next little chase. And it's just like the cat chasing its tail round and round and round. Hey, that's my tail. Whoa, let's go again.
Oh, no, it's kind of crazy. But there is like a certain madness at the moment. There's like is that, I mean, there's the cosmic fool, which is, you know, the good thing, the one that the like the ability to laugh at ourselves, and the game and the illusion, and it can be very, very funny, very funny. But you know, there's also like a certain aspect of pathos. You know, there's like the harder side of it as well.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dean, you were saying, I was chatting to you this week, and since the last time we chatted, you were saying, you know, we were going to chat a little bit more around this whole idea of how, you know, it's, maybe you can think about how to go into it and lead into it, but how, you know, people do get so caught up on the outside, and that's really not going to help us very much. It's not, you know, it's like that is a projected world, and that projection outwards is really the prison matrix. Because if that's what you think, you know, if that reflection is how you think you're going to change anything, is by looking outward or remember anything, yeah, no, you're not going to get very far. You're just going to get caught up in shadows, right?
Yeah, and
shadows of your own reflection, really.
Yeah, and that's the game. That's the grand illusion, and it's that saying is, as within, so without, as above, so below, as with the universe, so with the soul. And that says a lot, right? Is because everything's a holographic projection. Even this body we're in is a holographic projection. So the external is a holographic projection. And for myself, when I first heard that term, I was like, what the heck? What is that? That's just weird. It's just, it's not what I've been conditioned to believe. So it's just a bizarre concept. But
yeah, and who controls the hologram, right? Where's this hologram being projected from?
Well, that I would guess God.
And where's God?
God isn't. Where is not God? Everything is God, right?
Right.
And we didn't even have to use that term, because that term God can trigger people, especially if, you know, they've had bad experiences in religious experiences or religious pathways or anything. Like, so it doesn't matter what we call it. We can call it source. We can call it Fred. It really doesn't matter. You can't get wet from the word water. It's just a label.
But I do think that reconditioning of that word has got a lot to do with, you know, the way out, in a way, out of that hologram, the projected, you know, if like we think that God is outside somewhere in the sky on a cloud with like a telescope looking at us, and we have to do all those things for God, you know, which, I mean, I think it's, you know, surprisingly to me, there's just still so many people playing that game. That is, you know, surprising to me. And it's like, if you say, you know, what some of the great religious teachers came here to teach us, like, you are God's, you know, you're the God source, you're the child of God, you're God, you know, you're like, people get very upset.
Totally.
Why?
Because it goes against what they want to believe. If we're attached to our belief system, anything contrary is going to be expunged against. We don't want to have anything to do with it, because then my belief system isn't what I thought it was. So it's a threat, and the ego's operandi modus operandi is self-survival. That's the AI of the inverted matrix, and its mandate is to separate and divide everything, and so it can maintain control of the driver's seat. And from my perspective is that this inverted realm that we're in also is contained within our own belief systems. That's been flipped upside down too. And as it is dissolving and dismantling, it's getting uncomfortable for people, because their way of our way, I'm talking about they or I, but our way of life is having its foundations shook. And I think that if we look at ourselves multidimensionally, our cosmic selves, we've all collectively decided, everybody, that we've had enough of this inversion, and we're flipping it upside down to our original design. Even though our 3D avatar might not know what's going on here, right? But our higher selves actually do. And this is all unfolding in a grand way. The great awakening, whatever we want to refer to it as, there's something going on, and it's a lot more than what's on the surface. The iceberg is mostly under the water, right?
Right.
And it's coming up.
And as our mutual friend Rob Mercury likes to say, he says we must turn it from an introverted matrix to an extroverted matrix. That's the first step, so that at least it can be seen,
Totally.
So
exactly.
from hidden to in plain sight, and then once you can see it, then it's a lot easier to say, oh, okay, I'm going to play a different game.
And that first step is critical, right? Because we can't change anything we're not aware of. So we have to be able to see it for what it is. And that's happening. And we can see it all around, especially those that have been seeing the signs for the last 10, 20, 30 years. It's escalating more and more. And some people are waking up a little slower, and that's okay. Everybody's doing it at the pace that they've chosen to do so. Some chose a level of difficulty here harder than others. They wanted the greatest, grandest experience. They didn't want to wake up until the last minute. They wanted the full-on experience. I want the max.
Oh no. So I found, because you spoke about this idea, you mentioned in some of our chats, this idea of a spiritual bypass. And so there were kind of two main points that we were going to touch on today: the spiritual bypass, which maybe you can explain, and then the other thing of that it's less important what's happening on the outside, or it's just that you're not as interested in what's happening on the outside as what it has to do with consciousness. And that's an interesting topic, because I don't think some people don't think about that very often. Like, for example, what is the cabal in us? What is which part of us is that holds on to power, for example? So anyway, I don't know where you want to start, but either of those two areas. Since you've had your coffee, you can do both at once. I've also got my coffee.
Well,
here's to eclipsing the inverted matrix.
I think, as we know, our own egos can be our worst enemy or our best friend. How many times have we done something and then we have some regrets about it. And then and that's the ego having regrets. But the ego is also the one that wanted to do it. So it plays both sides, right? It's self-serving. So on the external, we could take the cabal, they're self-serving. It's all about me. It's all about, I want all the cookies, I want all the power, I want all the money. What does the ego do? It wants the cake and it wants to eat it too.
Right.
And so then when we eat the cake, it'll say, oh, my stomach hurts. You shouldn't have ate the cake. Right?
So the cabal is like our ego, right?
It totally
dominates. It dominates everything. It's like, you know, it's lower frequency. It's not, it doesn't go like, I don't know.
Exactly. It's lower frequency.
Yeah.
It's lower frequency. And everything is, the highest frequency always wins, right? And the lowest frequency, but they're dependent on each other, as everything in the polarized world. Like if we're walking and we got left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. If we only had one right foot, would we keep going in circles, or would we be bouncing and still going on circles? We need both. We need two rangs of the ladder to go up. It's very boring, and it makes it more exciting. Remember, we have to remember, this is a playground. And as real as it seems, as traumatic as it can seem, also as exciting as it can seem, if we were immediately taken out and we out of this realm, let's say we died or whatever, or we went to sleep and never woke up, and then we look back, we'd be going, wow, that was so real. I want to do it again. But when we're in it, it's hard to see it. So it's really, it's just, I know for myself, for the first 30 years of my life, I was holding the reins too tight. I was way too serious and stressed out. And as soon as I somehow managed to find some levity within myself, not take myself so seriously, to look at my own faults, to look at how I was my own worst enemy, making all the bad choices, and that I had no one to blame for anything going on for my state of mind but me. And I made a decision that I'm going to be happy no matter what. And I don't know how I ended up doing that, but I remember I was at the gym one day and I'm walking through the locker rooms, and some guy says to me, how come you're happy all the time? I said, because I decided that I'm going to be happy. And there was this older gent. He was about 80 years old. He always worked out there. He was always smiling, very, very, very quiet and kept to himself. But he just smirked because I saw him when he saw me. I saw him telling this guy that I said this to, and it was a decision that I made, right? But before that, I made myself the victim all the time. I was always, why is this always happening to me? I never do anything right, blah, blah, blah. It was all this AI conditioning that I programmed within myself. We're all co-creators. Nobody gets off on that. We're all playing all the parts in our own little realm, in our own little bubble, part of the bigger bubble of what we want to call source. So you asked that question about the cabal. I don't know if that answered it, but
I agree with you. I think the cabal, you know, if this game is playing out, you know, on a grand stage in front of us, our own inner game, then it would make sense, because an ego death, for example, is not comfortable. It's not an easy thing, and it's actually quite well, in my experience, it's not comfortable, but it's like a great dissolving of you know, of like a reference point. It's almost like the entire cosmos has just decided it's going to play a different game now. And it feels like this entire, reference point is in this great dissolution process, which is very alchemical. I love I don't know if you know the emerald tablet.
I've heard of it. That's Thoth, right? Or
yeah. The whole thing of how things sort of manifest into the physical realm. They start sort of in the void and then come down slow and slow until it's a physical experience. So it would start with an idea or a thought or a projection. And then if you stay with that, then it becomes solidified. Like a metal, for example. And then when you decide that you want to have a new idea, then you have to put those metals, those kind of ideas or old hardened thought processes or identities or whatever, you have to put them into this alchemical fire and let it go through this melting, and then it goes back up to that kind of source point, or God infinite potential space. And in the alchemy process, it's very nice, actually. I really like it. It's quite helpful because we go through that journey within ourselves. So we're going through the creation, the experience, and then the destruction of that creation into a new dream all the time, and depending, we can make a conscious choice around what that dream is that we're wanting to engage in. And I guess many people are participating in this dream at the moment, which is like it's a great dissolution and a great redreaming, I guess. It's feels huge, actually, what's happening on the planet.
It is a huge thing. If you just reminded me of something with that we're all alchemists every day. We're always alchemists, and the only difference is the degrees that we take it. But if something happens to me that's unpleasant, and if I take that experience and I learn from it, well, I just alchemize that. I made lemonade out of the lemons that had just happened to me. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it takes a bit of practice, doesn't it, to be able to catch yourself with your thoughts and where you're going with them, and kind of bring it into like some kind of more conscious, like if you want to be conscious and in this conscious dream awakened, that knowing that you're creating everything, then you kind of have to track where the ego is going and the thoughts and what they're doing. And
exactly there's the most important thing that I've found, which is the oldest thing that's been written in the holy books and everything forever, is know thyself. And when we know thyself, that can, if we look at that statement from we can look at it from various vantage points, right? But I take that as be the witness of our own thoughts. Observe the whole flow of consciousness streaming through our mind, and without judging the thought as a good thought or a bad thought, because we can't stop the mind from running streams of thoughts. That's just going to happen. But we can sit by and not get caught in the stream, but watch it. And then the more we practice self-awareness and observing ourselves, our actions, and from the inside, and keeping our attention within ourselves, then we really make grand leaps in becoming self-aware and self-realized. Then we regain control of our own being. The ego isn't running the show. It's not in the driver's seat anymore. We're not in the back seat no longer either. The ego's in the back seat. Ego, your job is to remember the groceries next time I go to the store. Right now, I don't want to hear from you, right? I want to watch my thoughts, and from that point, that's the gap. That is the gap, and that's where we find solitude and peace, and that's where the bliss state is not being caught up in the polarities. Remember I sent you that yin yang picture. And if we look at that yin yang symbol, that says it all, because we got black on one side, white on the other side, and in each of those colors is the opposite. So the opposite contains
the other.
The other, right? And that S curve, that feminine vertical line up the middle, is the path that we want to stay on. That's the divinity, the feminine aspect. And that's where we can see both sides. We can watch both polarities. We can go down the middle way and not get beat up on the rocks of too stuck on the left side or the right side. Because if we're on one side or the other, we don't have a balanced viewpoint.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think, what I have understood is that there's also another step. So the one step is obviously, if let's say you're wanting to move out of an experience. In other words, you've had enough of this game, then you have to go back to the center, and that's your entry point, up the middle path. So you're not having this experience or that experience, it's not right or wrong, or any kind of judging or clinging or whatever to anything is going to just keep you within the experience. So in order to go home, you have to go back to the center and then up the middle path without judging. But then there is the whole thing for me that we are also creators of life and life's experience. So you can learn to then choose what it is that you're wanting to be in, which game you're wanting to play. And so I've seen that a person can learn to actually control the thoughts that they're having and direct them into creative manifestations.
Exactly. Very well said, Amanda. Absolutely. We can learn to program ourselves. We can learn to reprogram ourselves, because we're all running on our own operating system. Program your own operating system.
Yeah, I mean, if exactly. I mean, I do think that's what we are trying to remember.
We're trying to remember. Exactly.
In this very dense environment that tries to get us to forget all the time. I mean, it's like high-level gaming, this one.
It is. But we also have to remember that we created that. We're part of the creation. Yeah. We created that game.
Yep.
And it's fear always divides and love unifies. So if we find ourselves in a situation where we're stressed out, then we look at it. Why am I stressed out? Look at the opposite side of that. And as soon as we can look at two things, we immediately in the middle position. We're back in the power position.
That's
but
true.
if we focus on the one, we're just going to create more of the one. And that's okay if we want. Some people love dabbling in the wash cycle. Remember?
Yeah, your washing machine. I liked it. It was very nice. What did it say in that cycle that with that photograph? Something, do you remember the steps? It was like, I'd have to find it.
Which one was that?
You sent a photograph of like the journey of life, almost like the hero's journey, and how one part of it is sort of, suddenly finding out.
That one.
Yes, exactly. That's the cycle. What does it say there? Because I can't
Yeah,
really see that.
yeah. Leaving the matrix, right? It's leaving the matrix. Is that the one?
Yes.
So when we start, we fall down the rabbit hole of chasing stuff, right? We're searching for what's really going on, right? And then we find out, holy crap, everything I've learned is a lie, or 90% of it, it's been flipped upside down. So we can get really upset about that because it's contrary to what we've been conditioned to believe. And then we can start continuing down that road of chasing more and more conspiracy theories. And I remember when I did this, this was over 20 years ago. I picked up a David Icke book, and I was reading through this thing, and well, that was one of the, yeah, and I'm looking at all this information. I'm going, wow, okay. I didn't dismiss it, right? I would already, at that point, I was already in the middle. I wasn't polarized so much, right? So I would look at anything, right? But what I noticed as I'm learning all this stuff, and I looked at other books too. I went to the library at the same time, and I was looking for books that he had referenced in the, is it the glossary where he got his information? So I started looking for these books, and I found a lot of them were getting pulled from the public library shelves, no longer for people to watch at. So I was like, okay, what's going on here?
Wow,
what's going on here?
Where do they put them? All the forbidden knowledge.
You know what? Exactly. What's the reason they're doing that? Well,
it goes to the Vatican, I think.
Well, that we could. I didn't look at it that way. Yeah. I looked at it. Okay, there's something I got to investigate here. So I started going on to used book or books or whatever, and finding the books there, so I could start getting these books if the library wasn't going to handle them anymore. And it just opened me up to new ideas, and I learned about different stuff. I did that a lot, right? So now.
And then you get rabbit hole fatigue, right? You go down so many rabbit holes, and it's like, okay, I'm done with the rabbit holes.
Exactly. And it didn't take me long. I didn't go down the rabbit holes too long. I got enough. I got it all. I got enough to know, okay, I'm getting polarized here. And I remember thinking, I have to balance this somehow. And what I noticed within myself is that I need to balance my feminine energy. And then I started getting books on, poetry by Rumi, things that cultivated feminine energy and feminine aspects and wholeness and creation, to balance all this inverted stuff I was looking at. But then once again, I go, okay, that's great. But if I go down that side too far without considering this, I'm just polar on the other side. So and I noticed these fit together. They fit together. And when I did that, this unifying sense came over me, because I didn't feel so off kilter. You know what I mean? Is I just felt that there was, I was not unbalanced anymore. That's the razor's edge, right?
That's interesting.
Right.
Wow.
And that was a really big turning point for me. Now, so if this, I'm kind of can I jump to my next thought?
Yeah, sure. Jump around. I'm thinking of the dark side of the moon, and the moon's being a satellite, and what is that symbolic of? And I just
exactly.
I'm singing songs in my mind. It's like I've been singing some of Pink Floyd's, you know.
Oh, we're gonna have some more wonderful conversations, Amanda.
Oh my God.
I love that too.
The first time I ever told no, I don't think it was the first time, but I remember telling someone, you know, that the moon is not, it's not actually an organic planet, you know, it's not like a body that's just naturally there. It's actually you know, it was a satellite, like an organic satellite that was moved there to stabilize the Earth's atmosphere. And it's, I mean, I have heard various things, but I've heard that it was actually towed in. I mean, how do you tow a moon in? But anyway, there was two satellites, two moons at one point, and now there's just one, and it was used to stabilize Earth's atmosphere. And it's not at all what we were told to believe in fairy tales.
Exactly, like everything else. And that's pretty much what I heard as well, is that it was brought in. It's an old planet that was carved in and brought in, carved out and brought in as a satellite,
Yeah, exactly. And it's very busy place, the moon base.
And the thing about that is if I talk to someone about that, that's just, you might as well lock this guy up because he's out to lunch, right? So,
you may as well just start there and then just like clean the palate, you know?
Exactly.
If they stay, then you can sort of go forward, and if they don't stay,
bingo.
You know, there's a few other people to red pill them into eternity, but they might not even be interested.
Exactly. If people aren't asking the questions, they're not ready for the answers. Even though we don't have the answers, but they're not ready for the dialogue if they're not asking the questions, right? So why bother, right?
Yeah, but you were ping-ponging somewhere else, so go for it.
Oh yeah,
Where were you going?
I was ping-ponging somewhere else.
Go for it.
So there's this saying that, or this idea that was kind of put into our heads, that we have to find our twin soul, our divine partner, or whatever, right? Which is, that's external, right? That has to be unified within ourselves. And if we unify our masculine aspects with our feminine aspects, we give birth within to unity consciousness, the Christos, whatever we want to label it. And then when we have that balance within, then we can see things a lot more clear. And then when we start looking at, whatever's going on the world stage here, we're doing it for shits and giggles. Oh, look at this! This is hilarious, right? Now they're putting this story out. Holy smokes! What a game! We're on Earth and we're watching this stuff happen. But not everybody is there. But if we get lost in it and into the search, it's because we're not, balanced within ourselves. And I see a whole lot of people that all they do is continually search for the next bit of intel, the next bit of this, the next bit of that, to fill the unquenchable thirst within that is really not out there. It's filled from within.
Yeah, and I think the inner marriage is really a part of what they mention in Alchemy and Emerald Tablet as well, because they talk about the Emerald Tablet is like the internalized version of external alchemy, which is turning metals into gold. So the Emerald Tablet is the it's our own journey of self-mastery. And at the fourth level is this, what they call, what's it called? It's the conjunction, I think, which is like that marriage of sort of mind and spirit, or into a union. So our own ability to create what it is that we want to experience from within, without having to engage the outside world to bring it or to look for it. And I mean, that's quite an exciting experience when you can get into that place.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, wonderful place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and we're all exactly where we are. If at each and every moment, we're the product of all the choices we've made up to that point, and we can change anytime we choose to do so. So there are no mistakes, there are no missteps. Everybody is right on track. Everybody is already awake. Everybody is already enlightened. There's nothing to do. It's a matter of taking off the blinders.
Yeah, and that's
Right.
I think that's a process in itself, because some people don't know how to. They don't know where to start. No, they don't have a clue.
Well, yeah, it's not about doing, it's about not doing. If we stop searching and we start to go within more and be our own observer, that's where to start. It comes back to know thyself. And the answers aren't out there. We can get little tidbits out there to help us go in more, but I recall this too, Amanda, is I read about enlightenment. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to get there, but I wanted it. There's something in me that said, yeah, I want that. So I started meditating every day. I just started being my own observer. I read The Power of Now. I started practicing that, doing all the little exercises in there. I knew that I couldn't, it's not like something I could go to a store and buy. You can't go and get enlightened. And that's what we are conditioned to do. I want to get enlightened. And if we want it to the extent that we're attached to wanting it, we're not going to get it. Right? So I knew that if I did these things, eventually it would happen.
Right. Yeah.
We have to allow.
Yeah, I mean, it's so one of the things, because I've been on the path really my whole life, I would say, like just really always into it and always interested, and always, like, since I was a little girl, I was like practicing teleporting to Mount Shasta and doing this and that, like, doing every activation and like every, grand alignment and this and that. And when something actually like really big happens, like that is a sort of almost like when the inverted matrix extroverts, and then you get like your form gets completely shifted. You kind of get turned inside out. It's like, okay, you're not this, you're this. And it's like, it's actually it's for me, it has been, I'm not saying it's like this always, but it's been like quite terrifying for my ego. I've had some experiences that have turned me inside out, thinking that I'm like, oh, I'm so excited to pursue this enlightenment journey, I'm like, and the next thing I have like a real tangible, like embodied extra, like turned inside out type thing. Like, okay, this is not who you are. This is who you are. You know, like, excuse my language, but like, oh no, help! You know, like get me back to what I knew before. You know, on the ego. I mean, the ego can also, I suppose that's what the spiritual bypass is, right? The ego can do the spiritual journey and actually get you absolutely nowhere.
Exactly.
Except that this bigger and bigger spiritual ego.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just it. Is it exactly? The ego is a chameleon, and it will take on the role of I'm spiritual.
Oh yeah.
Totally, right?
That was oh yeah. That was me for a long time. But still.
And we go down that road only to find out that we don't want to play that game anymore. Right?
So but spiritual.
Until we get saturated, we're not going to shift. We have to we get to a point where enough's enough. I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah, because change doesn't happen until we are fed up.
Yeah, that's true. And then I guess the soul brings in the next level of the game or whatever that you're playing, that you're in, you know, and it's like, okay, so well, if you really want to, you know, if you really want to have some awakening and you really, really want to have some enlightenment, then you're going to have to go beyond your ego thinking that it knows that it's so spiritual. So here's like a next level Dungeons and Dragons and Demons challenge. See how you do with that one. And meltdown.
Exactly. Because it's all degrees. It's like it's all degrees, right? Enlightenment is it's just a word, and it just means being self-aware of. And then when we develop self-awareness, we develop another degree of self-awareness, the next thin layer of the onion. And it's sort of like a karate black belt guy or gal. I got a black belt. Well, I'm a 10th degree black belt. Why do you get the 10th degree black? It's still a black belt. Well, I'm an 11th degree black belt, right? It just keeps going on. The game does not end. It just, we just get more conscious of being conscious, aware of being aware, and we find ways to make the game more exciting,
more and more
in a good way, not a self-serving, lustful way, but we become more attuned with the field, with everything, with the grandeur, with our omnipresence.
Yeah, I was listening to this Buddhist nun, Tenzin Palmo, who spent 12 years in a cave, her meditating, and now she, you know, she's actually quite an amazing woman, but she's very funny. I mean, that's one of the things that I like about her. And she says, you know, people talk about this word enlightenment, and it's like, well, what, you know, enlightenment, it's like the, you know, can you just explain what you mean? You know, because there's enlightenment, like one moment where the light turns on for you about something, and that's, you know, you've been enlightened about one small thing, you know, or there's like a Satori experience like you had, you know, where you're open, like the curtains get drawn back and you sort of have this awakening, or you can put it in your own words. And then there's like another level of enlightenment where you fully like dismantled from this ego, and you like fully absorbed into this, what do they call it, like this unconditioned consciousness, you know, like primordial eternal source. You know, it's like we need to be more specific. We use these words very lightly,
and that's just the thing. Words, they can divide, because if they can divide or they can unify, all they are is arrows. They point to a perception, they point to an experience, but like I said before, you can't get wet from the word water, right? Water is it's just a word, right? And word, if we look at it, words, take the S from the back at the front, we got sword. Sword divides. So, and a lot of these things, the words are hidden right in front of us. The greatest place to hide stuff, as we talked about before, is right under our noses, right? How many times have we been walking around looking for our car keys and they've been in our hand the whole time, right? If we also take the word earth as the external, and we take the H from the back and put it around the front, we got heart. Everything starts in the heart. And when we unify that, we unify the whole world on the outside, and we become part. We're no longer, the paradox of being in this polarized, dualistic realm or reality, we call it. The paradox is that we are caught up in being the character. I got to go get this. I got to pay my rent. I got to pay my mortgage. I got to buy my groceries. I got to get a wife. I got to get a husband. I got to build a white picket fence. All these things, that's being in the character, right? And when we're so caught up in the character, we don't realize we're also the creator, and that we can
zoom out.
We can zoom out. And then when we want to go back in and play again, we go and be the little character.
Choose another character, yeah.
Choose another character, and it just makes the ride a lot more fun and a lot more in control.
Yeah, I mean, and like, what happens when you get tired of being characters? Then
we become a new character.
No, but I'm saying, like, I guess I guess people do kind of decide, okay, I'm done with this game, you know, this little divided, differentiated self. I mean, it's like,
yes. Okay, yeah, I misunderstood you.
I suppose the idea of the differentiated self, the formless into the form, is to live inside of an experience that you've dreamt up for yourself. But I think we've kind of forgotten that we're supposed to dream an experience and then go and experience it.
Well, I think that's we knew that going in. Part of the reason we came in here is for the experience. Mm-hmm. We can't experience something unless we can't experience something unless we're fully immersed in that. How do we? I don't know. I don't know if I can put this into words, right? Because what is that? How
you have to kind of agree.
Well, yeah, we have to agree. That, and we all agreed to be here, and we all agreed to get lost in the experience. That's why we wanted to come here. And what does really that mean? It is, well, we're here.
Here we are going through
here we are, but we could be in this world, but we don't have to be of it. We don't have to be caught up. We can always be in the character. As great as it is, it can be really stressful. So if we can find a way to look at it from a bigger picture, then we can go, okay, I'm gonna be the best version of myself in this way, and then I'm gonna do this or whatever. It's we start being the artist of our own life, and we start painting our own painting. We start designing what we want to do and how we want to do it. But it all starts really with how our perceptions, and our perceptions have gotten us up to here. And if we want to change them, I'll change our perceptions one step at a time. It's a stair step. So what can we do? Have compassion for ourselves and understanding, and try and be happy, try and smile, try and do these things, and be our own best friend, because all we have to depend on is ourself. Really, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
We're our own best friend or not.
I don't know how much experience you've had talking to teenagers, for example, about this kind of stuff. Have you ever had conversations with the younger generation?
Just my nephew.
And
it's kind of like anything is unless someone is asking questions or going in that direction already, anything that's not already sparked within them is just, it could push them back into their bubble more. Right? So we have to meet them on I heard this saying a long time ago, and it was and he related to a picnic blanket. He's going, and he said, and it was I think it was it was Robert Maxwell. He was a leadership guy that he talked about. If you want to start talking to somebody about something, imagine you're walking up to them and you want to, unless you. I'm flubbing this all up, right?
All right, don't worry.
He said, if you want to start talking to them, get them to invite you onto their picnic blanket first. If you're not on their picnic blanket,
you don't have a reference.
You have to make that bridge first, right?
Yeah.
And that's so true, right?
Yeah.
But
I just had a chat. I've got a client who I work with who's a young girl, and there's a lot of teenagers that are having very tough times at the moment. I think that, if you don't have good anchored parents that are quite anchored, in like spiritual matters, it's quite turbulent here.
True. And I don't even know if that would make the difference, right? Because
you think some souls just can't do now? It's just the frequencies a bit chaotic.
Well, how I would view this is the inner patterns and programs that have been conditioned within teenagers, within all of us, right? But within teenagers, they're breaking down. They're on some level, they're seeing that what I've been told isn't true, isn't accurate. There's something going on here. There's something rotten in Denmark. Right?
Yeah, and it's like when one part of the matrix is really falling away, like it's what it's like, I guess it can be very very difficult to stabilize if you just, I don't know, if you just new here, or I don't know, you like exit the game,
Yeah.
The unraveling, it takes a bit of practice to ride the kind of energies that are going on at the moment takes
it. True.
yeah.
So all we can do then is try and look at things from a different perspective, as challenging as that is, and kind of see a bigger picture of what's going on. The inverted realm, the paradoxical reality is crumbling down. It's unraveling, and that unraveling process is challenging because it's contrary to what we've adopted as our worldview. So it's creating a disconnect, and sort of the separation we kind of maybe already are feeling is just being exacerbated that much more. And so people are confused and going, I don't know what's going on. I don't know who I am. Everything I know,
Yeah.
I'm not so sure I believe that anymore.
I know. I was chatting to this guy who's a journalist for one of the newspapers here, and he said to me, "Oh, Amanda, don't you want to contribute to this article that I'm going to be writing about why there's so many, Hollywood suicides at the moment?" And I kind of like, broke it down for him. And he's like, I'll get back to you on whether I can put that in the newspaper or not, and I just, I guess, some people have stepped out of the game and others are still playing, certain games, and it's like if you into this kind of game, and this is part of the inverted matrix or whatever you want to call it, and that's being dismantled, but you're not ready to let go, then it can be very, which I think is I think a lot of people are on that edge. It's like almost like pieces of the world are falling away and we're having to move, with what's being born.
You're right.
Yeah.
And and that's going on within ourselves. What's falling away,
right,
is what we resist is going to persist. And if we resist change, it's going to make the bumpy road even bumpier. Right? Some people are cruising through this relatively smoothly, and some aren't. Right? And the more we hold on to the reins, the more we hold on to our past conditioning, our history, and what I mean by that is holding on with attachment. We're attached to our history. We're attached to all our schooling, all our beliefs, all our old programs. If we're attached to our old programs, what life right now is doing, what God right now is doing, is taking us upside down, holding us by the ankles, and shaking out what doesn't belong. And that feels very uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Or throwing you all of us into the fire, the alchemical fire. And so melting. And
that's how we transform.
Yeah.
Right? Melting, like the witch in The Wizard of Oz. That is symbolic of the ego dissolving away.
Right. And then, there's the well, anyway, this is just one way of saying it. Then there's a reformed ego, I would say, in some ways, that is much greater.
Yeah, it's greater,
vaster,
not so selfish.
Right.
Our natural state is cooperative and collaborative, and we're social beings, right? We don't want to have wars. We don't want to be selfish. None of that is real. And so that stuff is that old game we don't want to play anymore. And there's a new one. That's coming up. It's coming, and it's unifying, and it's the feminine energy, and it's pulling things together, and we're becoming more heart conscious, more more holistic, right? The divine feminine is shining her light, and in a war, or in the past, the women were programmed to be more masculine, and it was an inverted masculinity that the masculine men were going down, right? And that's it's harmonizing, right? To be divine masculine and divine feminine that complement each other, and they're not opposites. They're
complementary.
Complementary. Thank you.
Mm.
So there's so much to be grateful for, in spite of how things are going on the surface, right? And if we can, I know when I started, this was really strange for me, is I was reading and it said, start writing out, write out a gratitude list every day. So I tried doing this for a week, and as soon as I started writing it, I was like, oh, this is weird. It's like I was writing a grocery list. I'm like, water, right? I couldn't do it because, right, it was difficult, right? But the more I did it, let me rephrase that if I can, is I knew enough not to be aware of when my ego was saying, oh, you don't want to do that. You want to go and do this, right? I thought, shut the hell up, right? And I would write out my gratitude list, right? And when I became more grateful for all these little things, that's planted a seed and cultivated something within myself, because it's too easy for us to take so much for granted. There's so much to be grateful for, right? And the news is just bombarding us with, oh, there's lack this, there's shortages of this, and blah, 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 blah. It's all inverted. It's all serving a higher purpose of showing us the dark and its full on capacity of what it's been doing, so that we can see that we don't want to play this game anymore.
And I guess, the masters of all the ages have transcended in the midst of these kind of environments. So even if it continues, and there'll always be an inverted matrix, and then we choose to come into it in order to have a challenge and have adversity that wakes us up to a greater degree. We don't have to wait for anything to happen. We can do our own journey within that adversity. I mean, that is, we are free to wake up. We don't have to wait for anything. We don't have to wait for something big is coming, something solar flash,
exactly.
Some elections, because I tell you, if I have to wait for another date or another time or another something, I'm sort of I'm over it.
Exactly. And a lot of us feel that same way, because that's the savior program. It's another program. I have to wait for whomever, some superhero or something to change how I feel inside. And if that's the case, then we're not sovereign, because that's a victim program. We've given our power externally. So it's essentially, we're a light switch. I'll be happy when this happens. And if we want to be a light switch, we are going to perpetuate our own misery and our own internal or inverted matrix. The inverted matrix has been shut down. It's not being broadcast anymore. It's all in here, the inverted matrix within ourselves, right? So we all have the power, like you said, to change it when we choose to do so. And it starts with a decision and taking the baby steps and the necessary little things we can do to start moving in a new direction. And the more people that start moving in another direction, then things will start changing on a grander scale. But because everything is a projection, the external big picture isn't going to make a big change right now. So be in the moment, live in the moment, and do what you want to do, or just go with your own flow and know when to. I have to rebalance. I have to, right? Be our own. We're our own guides. We don't need a guru out there. We don't need any of that. We've all been masters. That's why we're here. The best of the best are here, and we're all playing a part. Some have a public forum. Some have a private forum in their own circle. Some are just standbys on the side. Everybody's playing a part, just like on a play. On a grand stage, you got different characters, you have stage hands, everybody's doing their thing to make the whole show. Watch the show. Sit in the audience and watch the show.
It's been an interesting show, I must say.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if there's anything else that we can talk about before we close. I mean, I'm just thinking if there's anything else that we wanted to address.
What's on your notes there? Did you make some cheat notes?
I've made notes. Let me see. I had various notes, but I'm not really sure. We've probably covered most of it.
We bounced the ball around pretty good, just like last time.
Yeah, it's interesting and fun. And I mean, I'm just wondering if it's enough for one sort of piece, because I know we're going to get together again on the 17th and have another discussion. I think I just wanted to sort of add, and maybe this can be part of our next discussion, is this whole, there seems to be a lot of people talking about the dragon energy. Some people are talking about, like Rob and Mix have gone into the dragon families, the dragon bloodlines. People have had experiences of actual dragons, and then also, like, for example, that experience that I shared with you just very briefly on the phone, which was almost like a Kundalini experience. It was a bit like having a dragon energy turn at the base and go up the spine. And I think that somehow, I don't know how to put it all together, but it's like we are the earth is probably going through this Kundalini awakening, where what was settled and maybe sleeping like a sleeping dragon at the base has been woken, it's in the fire of change now. It's in the cosmic fire, and this dragon is awakening, and it's turning and it's moving up home. And it's just interesting. So that's the internal form that it's kind of like the ascension of form. So that was my experience, is that this formlessness congeals into a point and then comes down like this through the layers and creates a form. And that form is held until you're done with that experience, and then that awakens and then goes back up. And you can actually have that experience in your body, like an alchemical fire
Yeah.
And it burns away old aspects of the self. So it's just, yeah, somehow. And then one of the things that I saw after that experience was, I clearly saw, it was so interesting, I saw the soul, the spirit, and the personality. I could see them as different things, like almost like different sort of equipment. I could see that the soul was, it was like this feminine sort of transcription. It was like a sort of white, round, sort of, I mean, impossible to describe, but like an infinite scribe of consciousness, and then the spirit was, so that was more a feminine, like a receiving aspect of the continuity of the self, as long as we wanted it. And then the spirit, which was more like these like horses running in the water, it's like that's the masculine aspect of God, you could say, within us, like the driver. The spirit drives and the soul scribes. And then there's the personality, which was like this framework, like the viewer, or the lens. And whatever we put our lens onto is what the soul would transcribe, and the spirit would be driving it. And so those were interesting things to have, like clear visuals, and it's like we said to each other, actually, I mean, the whole journey is to turn that lens back to oneself, and that is what awakening is, right? You stop the external gaze and you remember who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's it, remembering. And because when that's it, that's self-realization, that's enlightenment, remembering that I'm more than just this character, is that I can view through this lens. And like you said, the ego is just a lens. It's just a viewpoint. Earth guide only. That's all it is. I love that. I wish I was able to. I don't see things like you are with these grand visions. I love that. I hope I get that soon.
You've had enough grand visions. I'm allowed to have one. But I think, do you actually believe in past lives, or how do you see that?
From my from what I've gathered from the people I've listened to, and what's come through, just downloads or intuitive feelings or whatever we want to call it, my way of looking at it is that we have our multi-dimensional soul, which is made up of 23 other multi-dimensional aspects, and that's the soul that comes down through the sun into form, into our mother's womb, right? And we go into this avatar, and this avatar is part of Earth. It's part of Gaia. It contains all the various minerals and everything of Earth, stardust, whatever. And that avatar has its own soul, its own earthbound soul, its own human entity, that has only operates and records information on Earth. over thousands, tens of thousands of lifetimes, right? So we pick our avatar, we pick our level of difficulty, we pick our name, we pick our birth date, we land in this little earth vehicle. We have our earth human entity soul. We have our multi-dimensional soul, which resides in our heart. The human entity resides in our solar plex, and our consciousness, our soul essence, kind of the communication between our right brain and our left brain balances it out. The left brain creates the holographic projection out there. The right brain processes from the creative standpoint, and we enjoy this dance. And so when we get inclinations of like for example, a protege that's just so good at doing whatever, well, maybe in a past life this was Bach or Beethoven or something like that.
Yeah.
That's from that human entity aspect. Right? So who knows, really? It's just fun to throw these ideas around, right? And start thinking about that kind of great stuff, as opposed to, you know, how am I going to build this patio? How am I gonna? How am I gonna? Right?
I remember watching. I mean, I've really enjoyed being a part of this. You know, like this sort of renaissance of consciousness awakening in a way, and all these greater conversations that can be had in more and more depth. I remember watching a program on Damanhur, which is a center in Italy that was built by someone who time traveled backwards to this time to build this time travel center, and it's active in Damanhur. And they teach time travel, but they talk about time as a landscape of time. So they don't talk about like a linear, like an arrow, for example. It's all a landscape of different frequency codes and patterns. And so depending on which frequency code you're vibrating at, that's the landscape of time that you're in, you know. And it was just a lovely different way to think about it. Everything, I mean, that's how you know, that's why people say everything exists simultaneously, because everything is existing on this landscape, just in a different frequency spectrum.
Yes. Yeah. Was that called Domino?
Damanhur. I think Damanhur. Yeah, it's on Gaia TV. There's a very good program on Damanhur on time travel. I can send you the link.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, it's
But anyway, I mean, I think, you know, these topics for me are very interesting, and I think in a way we just like laying out a little bit of a buffet to just choose little aspects to go into, because I quite like to go deeper into specifics as well. And I know you have, you know,
me too. Yes.
Of that. And it would be nice. So as we have these conversations, we're just like opening the landscape up a bit, and then we sort of choose, because there's a lot to go into and share and go in, you know, deeper into and enjoy. So I look forward to that with you, and I'm kind of a bit sad, but I think I'm going to have to start to bring this little time together to a close, just because I have other obligations today. Sadly.
Time, that's okay. It was so much fun, and time kind of just flew by, didn't it?
Yeah, really. We've got a few more minutes, but I'm just saying, you know, it's yeah, there's just so much to say. Like, you know, I don't like to, my worst is people that make generalizations about things and then it seems so flippant, you know, and then there's no deeper conversation. So
Yeah.
it's very important for me that, you know, if people watch something like this and we're just saying, oh, you know, you are God and this and that, and throwing these huge ideas out there, you know, that people understand that it might not be what they think is being said, that there's actually a lot deeper levels of understanding that have to be delved into. Yeah, you know, and it's the same with like this thing with the dragons. And I just mentioned, you know, oh, Kundalini and the dragon families and the red dragon. And I mean, those things in itself, I mean, we could spend 20 years unpacking. I mean,
Exactly. And but yeah, there's so much that we can that is fun to talk and bounce ideas around with the right people, with the right frequencies that are aligning, with the tribe that we're putting together, right? Because some people want to have so and so conversations, and that's fine. Everybody's where they're at, but we see the world based on our own level of consciousness that we're at, and that's completely okay. But it's so much fun to look at the really crazy big stuff: dragons, torus fields, vortexes, consciousness. It's just more aspects of the playground that we want to explore. That's it.
Yeah, those toys. Yeah. And that amazing alphabet piece that you showed me, it would be nice to share that and chat about that sometime. It was amazing.
I just got some pictures last night on that. I'll send you them.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Out of this book.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what's important to me about these conversations, you know, even if it's only just a handful of people that hear them, is that it puts me into a position of greater, what I find is it puts me into a position of greater synchronicity in terms of serving my community and just being with each other, because you and I have taken the time to kind of mind meld or whatever ideas meld, and then we don't have to like go over the groundwork again. It's like you can move from here to somewhere else and sometimes take people with you, and you never know how that can be of service. So that's really why I love these times, you know, with it's like being with a friend that you haven't been with for a long time, and it's like catching up, you know.
I totally agree, and we can feel it. We can feel that energy within us moving, and that's how we all. A lot of what we have conversations about is not even with the words. It's just the energy behind it. It's the frequency. It's the data sharing, and that data opens up more packets within our DNA, and that just opens up a broader expression. And in our own community, that vibrates out, and unconsciously it just activates other people around, even people that we want to say are completely asleep. It changes things on the inside for them. The highest frequency always is the dominant one. It's not dominant in a domineering, overpowering way, but it forces that lower energy, that lower spin of someone, of another, to increase. And if they can't sustain it, they'll go on somewhere else and do their own thing until they reach a saturation point to speed up their own spin where they can match with this. And that's how everybody rises. We all help each other by raising our frequency.
Yeah, or jumps timelines. It's like if we can just extend a little, vortex that we make together out to a few people, and someone feels like jumping in on that little wave and coming on a ride, then we've put out that little invitation, that like cosmic surfboard or whatever.
Yeah. Beautiful.
All right, Dean, I'm going to have to go, but thank you so much for your amazing being. And I just enjoy speaking to you. I really enjoy being with you. And we will see each other again.
I totally appreciate the opportunity to chat with you as well. It's always a pleasure. I just love your energy, and it's so much fun to exchange ideas and bounce that ball.
It's really fun. And thanks for getting up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and having caffeine overdose to meet.
Well, I hope you have
my time.
I hope you have a great day. And
thank you. And we'll see you again.
I guess you're turning into the evening, but thank you, and we'll chat again. All the best. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Dean. Go well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care.